Hello you young and beautiful people, I am kitsune-fuzzy and we have reached week 9 of my indie games devlog. The energy and enthusiasm dwindle, but I persist. This week was all about getting the little robot dude up and running in game. Last week I prepared the 3D mesh of this, I like to call him Godrilla. A combination of guard and gorilla. I know I'm clever, no need to tell me. So I started this week by UV unwrapping him. After setting the basic seams, I generated a color grid in Blender and used that as a texture for the model, so that I can easily see the texture stretching and problem areas. It's also helpful to enable the display stretch option in the UV editor. It is a great way to see where the UVs could be better. I still left the model to be mirrored, since I don't think that I'll need any texturing details that are asymmetrical in this case. After this I went straight to texturing. I thought about sculpting in details for a high poly model, but I'm not sure if this is necessary here. If I feel like I should do a high poly model, I could still do that later. I gave him a metal base, some red colored parts, a black rubbery main body and white eyes. I also made the mouth part a bit brighter. Time to export the textures and back to Blender for now. I set up the material and gave him a basic humanoid skeleton with AutoRig Pro. But while editing the bones, I seem to have done a small mistake and started over with that part. With the skeleton in place, the next thing to do is weight painting, so that each bone moves the correct part of the body. For a robot that is fairly simple, since for the most part I can just give single bones a 100% control over a certain mesh island. Pretty much for everything except the main body. Then it is time to test the rig and see how well it's working. And then see that there is some more things to fix. But with this done, it was time to import him into the project for the very first time. Looks okay, but I feel like I need to change something. I didn't quite like the silver head, so I moved through the colors in Substance Painter and picked purple for the head for now. If I ever want to change this, it will be no problem at all. I can just go back here and re-export different textures. And I still brightened it up a little in Unreal Engine. Okay, so we have a rigged and textured model. Next step, animations. For that I just googled some reference material for a walk cycle and whatnot. I do have some very simple entry-level motion capture equipment, but I think it would be more work than animating this by hand, since the robot doesn't have knees and should be a little more cartoony overall. It would also help to record video reference material myself, and I might even do this next week to clean up animations and get better timing for some actions. By default, the rig uses IK, or inverse kinematic. That means I move the foot and the leg tries to position itself correctly up the bone structure. It was a bit of a headache with this model, since maybe the humanoid skeleton wasn't the best choice here. So I only did a walk cycle first and it didn't look very good. Then 2 of my 3 brain cells connected, and I remembered AutoRig Pro allows me to easily switch the rig from IK to FK. Forward kinematics. That means movement only propagates down the bone hierarchy. So the movement of the foot would have no effect on the leg, but the leg would move the foot at the end with it. And this way the animation looked way more stable. Now I wanted to get the very groundwork for the anime AI done. I started by creating an enemy blueprint and making a Godrilla child blueprint from this. So I can later have all enemies, also known as an enemy type class, and add common functionality there. Admitted, best practice in Unreal Engine would be to separate the AI behavior in a separate AI controller class, but I can't really see why this would be necessary in this case. It would just be a lot of extra work for seemingly no gain at all. But you know what else would just be a lot of extra work? Me doing this enemy stuff in Blueprint. I decided to move this over to C++, it would just be cleaner and more efficient to me. My first attempt here was with a simple state enum and a switch statement to pick the correct thing to update. But I decided to use my old and trustworthy state machine that does the same thing, but also has state enter and exit functions, from where I can do a lot more things a lot easier, like trigger animations on state enter. So I added the core state machine to the enemy class, and the Godrilla behavior just used that and overrode the state functions that I needed. In this case, idle, walk, chase and attack. An awesome thing that Unreal Engine offers out of the box is pawn sensing. A component that can let a pawn hear and see with just a few parameters to adjust for your use cases. When they see something, or even just players, they can inform your code about it. So I don't need to do something like this myself, and I love it! Now the very basic idle, wait, pick a random point and walk to it was working. And he loses sight when we get out of range, hide behind something, or leave the AI navigation area. Time to make some more animations! So I started by adding 2 idle animations. I wanted to have one that regularly plays and another one that just occasionally plays to have some more variation. Not really needed, but I wanted it. Next I made a run or chasing animation. For this I looked up a sprinting gorilla online and found something I could use for reference. I think this one took me the longest and I still feel like I need to clean up a little more here, but it works for now. Back in Unreal, with all animations imported, I wondered what the best way would be to switch between animations. The cleanest one would probably be to use animation blueprints, but that seemed too convoluted to me just to play some simple animations. So I decided to go with animation montages. There I can add all necessary animations and give them markers that I can then jump to. I can even tell them what animation to play when another one has finished, or if it should loop. I just use this, for example, when the second idle animation has finished playing, it just switched to the default idle animation automatically. I also added a function to the code where I can just play an animation, or marker in that case by name, and set blend in and blend out times as well as the animation play speed. This makes blending between various animations super simple. Finally, I made an attack animation for the Godzilla. It is a bit rough and I'm not too happy with the timing at this point, so I'm likely to rework this later, but there was little time left this week and so I took what I had for now. Then I added a trigger sphere to the blueprint in Unreal and an arrow for the direction that the player is supposed to get thrown. The trigger activates with a bit of delay after entering the attack state. I think I could also move this to an animation notification. I will probably do this next week, thinking about it now while writing the script. Anyway, now we have the basic behavior complete with animations. He can idle and roam around, plays a short animation when noticing the player, and then chases us until he loses sight. And when he gets close to us, he smacks the ball away. I still want to add some more effects and sounds as well as clean up some of the animations a little more. But this is it for this week. If you want to follow this project, hit the red subscribe button and leave a like, it really helps. And as always, I want to thank my patrons Yaya Danbus, Nathaniel Page, Ori Don't Official and every smaller supporter who helped making this project possible. And I hope to see you all next time. Bye!